Today, my guest is Tom Londres. Tom is the CEO of Metro Commercial, commercial real estate brokerage, and Metro Commercial is the industry leader for retail brokerage, providing regional, national, and international tenant representation to 140 individual and expanding retailers. They represent over 430 properties, totaling over 32 million square feet. Metro also specializes in project leasing and landlord representation, investment sales, property management, and development services. And in just a minute, we're going to talk with Tom about retail real estate, the risk, trends, and opportunities in retail in the coming year. But first, a quick reminder, if you like the show CREPN Radio, please let us know. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, you can leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also want to remind you, if you'd like to see how attractive our guests are, you can check out our YouTube channel, and that's Commercial Real Estate Pro Network on YouTube. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Tom. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to our conversation about retail real estate today. But before we get started, if you could take a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
So Metro Commercial is a retail brokerage company offering third-party solutions to retailers, owners of retailers, investors in retail real estate. From a property management point of view, from a capital markets sale point of view, retailers looking for new locations, we assist them. And then finally, if you own a piece of retail real estate, you have a vacancy, or you want to make changes, we can assist you with that as well. I've been in the business for almost 32 years. The company's 32 years old. I joined several months after it was started. We're about 100 employees. We transact in our home base, which is the greater Philadelphia market, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And our tenant representation platform takes us coast to coast and international, depending on the client's needs.
Gotcha. And retail, strip mall, big box, the whole left to right, top to bottom, or is there
Yeah, so you can categorize retail into separate segments. Yeah, you can argue about those segments, but our core business is suburban retail, strip centers, big box community centers, supermarket anchored centers, as well as downtown urban. Some people would call that high street, just downtown urban, I would call it, because we cover the mass of the city, not just the high-end shopping districts. There's some companies that specialize just in high-end shopping districts. We cover all urban and suburban areas. We aren't specialists in regional malls. We're not specialists in outlet centers, but that would be about it.
Gotcha. 32 years in retail. I know the last 10 or 15 have been a little bit dynamic with the advent of the internet and the Amazon effect and all that. But when you look at kind of where you started as to now with like suburban real estate, are the fundamentals relatively the same, or have they changed considerably?
When you choose retail real estate, the most important thing is location. That was the fundamental in retail real estate in the turn of the century. It was the same in 1987 when I got in the business. And fortunately, it's the same in 2020. Being at the right intersection, being at the right quadrant of that specific intersection tends to go up and up and up in value. Those intersections have changed through the years, but in core markets, there's always the number one location, and that usually drives success for retailers. Those requirements change. How a sports bar sees a number one location for them is much different than maybe a bank, or a daycare. But if you drill down in each retailer's bricks and mortar needs, you'll find criteria that make certain locations rise to the top and other locations be dismissed immediately. It's not true in office and industrial as much as it's true in retail. So I would say the fundamental that has not changed in our business is A, locations.
Gotcha. When you talk about drilling down, is that, I mean, like traffic count or demographics or can you speak to a few of those things that make a, like from a retailer to a sports bar or things that they would take into consideration?
I'll circle back to those two examples. I don't know where you work, but I'll make an assumption. You drive to work in the morning and you're not looking to have wings and a beer at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're probably more apt to buy a cup of coffee and a donut. At least that's what the retail sales would show, that retail sales in the morning for coffee and donuts are much higher than they are in the afternoon. But the afternoon sales of buffalo wings and beer, especially on a Friday night when there's a big game, are higher. So when I say drill down, there's things like the morning side of the road, coffee, donuts. The afternoon or evening side of the road, happy hour, beer, and buffalo wings. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what you wouldn't want to do is be on the afternoon side trying to peddle coffee and donuts at 6 p.m.
Right.
Your market's very limited.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense and probably explains some of those failures that you've seen or I've seen over the time. You drive through and you see the all the infrastructure put in and the going out of business sign shortly thereafter.
I think that's part of it. I think, there's many other factors that go into that. But if you're talking about location, it's a surgical strike, meaning if I want to be in a certain market, I don't just go anywhere if I'm a retailer. If I'm an office user and I want penetration in the Portland, Oregon market, or I want it in the Miami, Florida market, and I just want to cover the market, I may look for convenience, but I may be driven more by price. I just want to be in the market. If I'm trying to sell coffee, if I'm trying to sell sandwiches, if I'm trying to sell furniture, it really matters where I am specifically along a vehicular artery, a pedestrian artery. And those criteria are very, very specific, and you've got to be surgical about how you make decisions and compromises. It could be your success and it could be your demise if you miss one of the metric in deciding. It's that critical.
No, it makes complete sense. Kind of that notion of frictionless. If you're trying to make a left-hand turn on a busy street in the morning to get your cup of coffee, you might be apt to go to the next place on the right, kind of thing. Or
well, if you're trying to sell shots of vodka or tequila and you're trying to do it at 6 a.m. on the morning side in traffic, I don't think you're going to really be successful.
Yeah.
But if you're next to a theater with big parking lots and able to next to entertainment venues, then you're going to be successful, and it really matters. So
I gotcha. So, what are some of the trends that you've seen, change from, I guess, I don't know how far back you want to go, or if you want to, you can answer it, I guess, on what you've seen or what you see coming as far as trends with
I'll
retail.
talk about current trends. I mean, there's been a lot of trends in our business. I first got into business, there was no such thing as a Home Depot. I didn't know what the word Home Depot meant in 1987. I didn't know what the word Target meant. I didn't know what Walmart meant. These are common household names and dominate the retail corridors throughout the country and throughout the world. in the late 80s, other than being in Atlanta or Arkansas or Minneapolis, you would know these names because that's where those companies started. And they started their aggressive growth in the suburban sprawl. So in the 80s and 90s, the deconstruction of the department store was underway. We all went to the department store, and each floor or each section of each floor represented a different department. And as retailers got sophisticated and the retail, bricks and mortar retailing evolved, they took one of each of those components out of the department store, located them generally across the street, and exploited them in big box formats. Apparel, hardware, appliances, TVs, electronics, you go down the list. We're getting to the end of that now, where cosmetics and some specialty apparel and some experiential retailing. I know in the old department stores in the major cities, they used to have food halls. There's not much new under the sun with this stuff. It's just how it's offered and how it's packaged. Department stores used to have everything: foods, restaurants, coffee bars, butchers, a cheese shop, a shoe store, somewhere to buy your athletic clothing, somewhere to buy your sporting goods, all in one building. And so much of our career has been assisting retailers breaking that down and bringing it into an open air shopping center with one or two categories under one roof. That was kind of the first wave in the last, say, 30 years. Now that that's settled, I think some of the trends now that are happening at a much more exponential rate, a much more rapid rate, are still the evolution of omnichannel in both directions. The omnichannel dilemma, or the omnichannel puzzle to put together, is there's downward pressure. There's pressure for bricks and mortar retailer to get their online presence up and operational, as well as some of the big names in online retailing. And equally so, the big names in online retailing are feeling that pressure, that delicate dance between what is my online customer experience and what is my bricks and mortar customer experience. And so some of the more rapidly, more aggressive retail bricks and mortar expansions are coming out of the online world. And some of the more aggressive investments being made in the online world are coming out of the bricks and mortar world. Hopefully that makes sense. So there's that evolution in both directions. It's not that all retailers are evolving and trying to catch up with one another in one category. Retailers that don't have online are trying to catch up there. Retailers that are online are trying to catch up in the bricks and mortar world. And it's creating a lot of disruption and a lot of new innovation. BOPIS, buy online, purchase in store. That's where some of this evolution of omnichannel is really coming together in a very practical, tangible way.
You mentioned,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, you mentioned omnichannel, and it, can you, I mean, is it basically just from all points? Is that what
different channels, different channels. So you can't have one. I can't be just a bricks and mortar retailer. Costco is investing an immense amount of money in their online digital presence. They resisted it for years, and they understand that it's not just a necessity. It used to be a necessity in the early days. The bricks and mortar retailers, the big box retailers, would outsource their online. Now they're bringing it, and they're saying there's huge opportunities here. You know, you're sitting with your cell phone. There's certain things that now you're accustomed to buying online. You would never think of going down an aisle. Right. But if you got to return one of those items, or if you're in the store buying something that you would never buy online, or do something that is impossible to do online, like get your dog groomed, now you're going in and buying dog food. Now you're going in and buying a collar. The easiest thing on the internet to buy is a dog collar. You just look at the pictures, you click it, and it's there in the day. Right. But you can't get your dog groomed online. So the balance between I can't get my dog groomed on an online site, but I can buy a collar in the store while I'm there, That's where they're trying to figure it out. What are the SKUs you carry in a store that are going to be profitable, that I'm going to hang on a rack or put on a shelf, pay rent, and hopefully you come and get it. On the other hand, how can I deliver a 40-pound bag of dog food at zero shipping? It doesn't
Right.
make any sense. If you actually paid the shipping to get it, the logistics, the supply chain, get it out of the warehouse, put it in the truck, get it out of the truck, walk it down the driveway and place it on your front step. I mean, I don't know what that costs. It's got to cost somebody $45. But if you're buying a 40-pound bag of dog food and then the shipping is $45, you can drive over to your local pet store, big box, get Fido groomed and buy it with no shipping. You've undermined the online outlet. So online and bricks and mortar were fighting for a long time, and they were trying to just stay in their cages, if you will. I'll stay in my lane, you stay in your lane, and we'll see who wins. Now they're saying we both of us have to do both. And the answer to that, the more recent trend, is buy online, pick up in store. No shipping. I drive customer traffic. Your customer experience is where you want it. I just want to tell you how many toilet paper rolls I want, have them waiting for me. And while I'm there, I'll pick up milk. Or I'll pick up my vegetables. Because I tried delivery with the grocery store and I didn't like the strawberries you picked out, and I didn't like the grade of meat you packed in the bag. I want to make those decisions. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, I appreciate you going through that, because it is an interesting, uh, dichotomy, I guess, or just a transition from the standpoint of, used to be you always went to the store, and then the online, the free shipping thing, and like you're describing, I mean, there's a cost. How's that getting absorbed? Is it that the online e-tailer has a lower cost of space? I mean, are they not owning? Are they more of a not a bricks and mortar? They're just more of an intermediary. I've never understood that. Like you're saying, just that somebody's paying. There's a cost in there, and where is it? Where?
It's a huge cost,
Yeah.
and it's the cost to the consumer when I order my entertainment center. And it's a put together furniture, and it comes and it's free shipping, and it's $19.99. I open the box and it's broken.
Right.
And it's at xyzonline.com. I got this great deal. Now I've wasted $19. Now I have to throw it out. I'm aggravated. But if you go to target.com and you pick it up in the store, you might want to check it. If they deliver to your doorstep and you open it and it's broken, most of the population lives within, a short distance from Target. You walk in, they say, how can I help you? And you got an online return desk, and you go and grab another one. So, they're experimenting with, what is the store? Is the store a return center? Is it an experience center? Is it just display every SKU that we have? When you go on to target.com, there's numerous SKUs that aren't present in the store, but they'll accept returns on them. They'll help you with them. They'll deliver them. They'll deliver them to the store. So, Target's one of those retailers that I think has a very good reputation, a very good presence on the bricks and mortar, and is really gaining momentum on their online. They're doing omnichannel retailing as good as anybody right now.
It's funny. You were talking about the exchange process, and it's been a little while ago, but I remember buying some dress shirts, and I just remember the e-tailer that I got them for, instead of like shipping them back, they just encouraged me to go to the local store, and the local store just took them back and exchanged them, and no friction kind of thing, and I got an easy solution. Wasn't going to go through another back and forth kind of thing. But what was interesting, as I thought about it, is it's almost like a way for them to get new inventory, because
Yeah,
they didn't have to ship it twice, from to me and then back to them, and then ship it back to their retail store. It was just kind of more
yeah,
of a way to move their inventory.
yeah. But the trend is to get that right, to get that balance
Right.
right. The consumer, it has become very fickle. I want it cheap. inexpensive. I want the best price, good value. I want it now. I want to be able to get out of this transaction if I want to, no questions asked. And I want high quality goods. And so there's a lot of pressure. Like, keep the price down, keep the quality up, and let the consumer out anytime they want. And if you mess up on any of those fronts, they'll make you pay forever, because they'll
Right.
never go to you again. So
Right.
a lot of people are investing in that customer experience on the bricks and mortar front, and they got it locked and loaded. On the online front, and they got it locked and loaded. Now the pressure between the two is you gotta have both. You have to have both.
With the kind of the change, or you were talking about how originally it was kind of the e-tailers were in their lane, or the online was in their lane, and the bricks and mortar were in their lane, and now they're recognizing they need both. Have you seen the space requirements change
Yeah.
for the retailers, the brick and mortar?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the risks too. I think it's a trend. What's the purpose of a store? I mean, what is the purpose of a store? Is it a showroom? Is it an experience center? Is it a place to go and get milk and bread? I think it's all of them. I think stores, physical stores that don't have some type of experience as part of them, are moving towards death. Stores that don't have products that you can touch and feel, try on, and actually purchase, maybe not take with you. Try on a suit, like a suit, it arrives 3 days later, perfectly tailored. You try on a pair of shoes, it arrives later that day at your doorstep. So we can experience, we can try it on, we can walk around with it, we hit a button, and now real-time delivery puts it on your doorstep. So I don't have to carry the inventory. I have to go in the back room and say, sorry, I don't have a size 12. It's my life story since I've been an adult. Sorry, I don't have a size 12. I got an 8.5, but I don't have a 12. Right? Well, if you have an online presence and it's good, like Zappos, you always have 12s, because you got them in warehouses all over the country. So, if I can get me, the problem I would have in an online retail shoe store is I got to order 3 of them to figure out, A, what's my size in that manufacturer's shoe, and do I like it? I look in the mirror, I got to walk around in it. Is it wide enough? That's really easy in a store, but you're paying high rent. Now I don't have a size 12. Right? You're failing me, So if you have a great online presence and you have a store that I can touch and feel and try on, I'm going to come back, as long as you have low prices and good value. So
No, it makes complete sense. I mean, on that kind of the combination and just kind of the transformation, and how the retail's had to figure it out. And it sounds like it's still being figured out, but it seems like based on what you've described, and kind of my own experience, and also feel like there's a a huge amount of data that's finally being, or I don't say finally, but really being understood. Maybe, I don't know that it was as understood as it used to. I don't know that previously all of the data was fully understood as much as it is now, or how to
yeah, I
use
mean, I
that.
think that's a huge trend. I mean, you talk about data 5 years ago, it really wasn't talked about. You talk about data. I mean, maybe in making a real estate decision, traffic counts, population, education level, but now it's, the cell phone data, you know, the demographic data it's just expanded in the width of what you need to know to make strategic decisions. You know, what does the customer want to see on shelves? How many do they want to see? And what variety? Do they even want to take product home with them? What hours do they shop? What do they prefer? Um, um, you know, what items would they rather, buy online and just pick up and have us put in your car, or ship to your store? And the collection of data is really where the future is, in many industries, but surely in retail.
Right.
Trying to figure out those products and those behaviors and trying to get them in the right locations, either online or in a bricks and mortar store for the purchase, for the transaction.
Right. No, it is fascinating, and for all of the arguments against giving your data away or how it's collected and stuff, when it's put to use in a way that makes everything work better, I'm not opposed to that kind of thing. It certainly makes. I mean, it does. There's a greater benefit for it. I mean, just for like a retailer that can, make certain they have the types of things people are looking for, and be in a way to meet the consumer's expectations. I think
Yeah.
that's a win for everybody.
And then how
Um,
you buy, how you load, how you consume. The load all this data in for me versus voice. I mean, you really can now. I have an Alexa in my house. I don't really use it that much other than turn on lights. And I know somebody's listening to me. But you can lean into that product and speak into it and have a 40-pound bag of dog food arrive on your doorstep the same
right,
day
right,
by just speaking into it. So,
right,
that data, however they use it, is an accelerated way to purchase and consume, but it's also they're collecting it and saying, do people prefer to buy this way? How do they prefer? When will they speak into this? What kind of items will they? So there's certain things that you're going to take a long due diligence, and you're not going to say on an Alexa, just send me the latest Samsung 78-inch, OELD TV. You're not going to do that because it's a $3,000 purchase. But the same dog food that you've been ordering for the last 11 years,
right,
every single month, just say it.
right. Alexa, dog food now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or deodorant or, whatever. So,
Right.
there's certain items that are commoditized that technology is going to just take over and streamline, and you'll never have to even think about it. There's others that are more complicated.
Right.
So I think that's part of the data collection and technology is that voice technology. That's a very new trend right now. The other trend I think is the whole kind of Airbnb when it applies to consumer goods. And what I mean is the resale, the rental. There's retailers right now specializing in saying, you're going to make the investment. It's a lot of apparel. You're going to make an investment in this apparel, in this jewelry, in this accessory. Well, you're only going to wear it once, and then you're going to look for reasons to wear it again, which is really the secondary reason you bought it. You went to this event and you wanted to look your best. Well, it's on. It took me an hour to prepare. The event's 3 hours, and it takes me 20 seconds to take it off, and I'm done. Why not just pay a premium, rent an apartment on Fifth Avenue that cost, $8 million, and I rent it for $1,800 a night. Well, let's actually do the math. It's really cheap. If you had to pay for it over 30 years at $1,800 a night, it's very expensive. But for 3 nights?
Right.
So the whole resale and rental market is exploding. I think it appeals to the millennials because millennials, they're 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 they got a lot of things that are going for them. And when it comes to them valuing material possessions, I think they're on to something. They don't need much, and what they need, they would rather experience something rather than own something. And an experience could be, I just want to dress up for a night and go to this dinner and wear a fancy dress and nice jewelry. So I'm going to experience it. I'm not going to acquire it. So I rent it.
No, I would love to see a closet like that had the rented equipment for the night as opposed to the lifetime supply. That.
Well, it's making its way into retail where it's already solidified. I have friends now that are moving to the city. They're empty nesters. They sell their car and they just use Uber. No
Yeah.
insurance, no parking, no maintenance, picks you up at your door and drops you off at your door. I mean,
That's pretty frictionless there, isn't it? There's
yes.
no gas, no insurance, no oil changes, no tires, brakes.
Except for the rate goes 4 times when it's pouring rain. You got to figure that one out. But they'll
Right.
figure it
Yeah.
out. I think another trend is, I said experience. Retailers for tomorrow have to figure out what experience are they going to offer, and how are they going to be environmentally responsible. That's huge in our business right now. Younger consumers, the up and coming consumers. I mean, this whole idea of like bottled water, like they're pushing back on it. Some retailers are pulling it out of their stores. It's offensive. How do you power your lights if you don't have solar panels? It used to be an incentive, a financial incentive. Now it's sustainability. It's image. I'm not gonna shop in your store if you're gonna just drink out of water bottles and throw them in the landfills and consume, fossil fuels to, run your stores. Be responsible. Well, you know what? That's a trend right now that's costing retailers a fortune to convert their store and to get their optics right and to get the new ethic right of being responsible and reducing their footprint, their carbon footprint. So that's a big deal in bricks and mortar. You have stores. Some of these stores are built 20 years ago, 10 years ago. They're built with a mindset that's behind them, not in front of them. So that's a big trend on switching, retrofitting, and then new construction, how to make it more sustainable for the future.
Are you seeing that? I mean, I would assume definitely in the new construction, but in the retrofit, are you seeing a lot of that with
Absolutely.
in,
Absolutely.
in
Yeah, the retailers that want to live into the future and want to lead into the future are retrofitting their stores. They're going for sustainable lighting. They're going for sustainable energy sources. They're transforming their parking lots into more green space and less parking. They're rethinking a lot of their almost locked stake in the ground fundamentals when they were rolling out these big expansions in the 80s and 90s on their big box retailer, especially the big box retailer. Now they're coming back and rethinking that. How are they using their roofs? And how are they using their parking lots? And where are they getting their energy from? Are they using recycled products in their store for the infrastructure of their store? All that, even in the building trades, you see that, how they're building and how they're, using light, both for illumination and energy. I think of many retailers are using their roof right now and they're going solar in big part of their chains. It's a big investment.
no, and I'm kind of curious. The things that you can see. I mean, obviously, you can see green spaces and things on the shelves and stuff, and maybe some lighting. How is that communicated? Like the electric or the solar in that? I mean, are they are they putting that in their corporate documents? Or I mean, I'm just kind of curious how
Yeah, it's funny. You'll notice. I'll make a prediction. You'll notice retailers at the front of it. They're going to advertise more about who they are and what they do rather than what they sell and what you can get. Yeah, you know what you can get at a Target. There's no mystery. There's no new products that are going to blow you away. They sell. Basically, they're a variety discount department store, right? They're the same as the departments. You don't walk in a department store, you have a shoe section. No, what are you talking about? I mean, of course they have a shoe section. So they're going to be positioning themselves as an innovative retailer that has an online presence, that has a effortless customer experience, that's responsible for the community. They didn't talk about one product they sell. They talk about how they sell it and how they're good stewards of this earth and all the ground they occupy. And so, They're going to be making their parking lots out of recycled materials, and they're going to be using them for community events, and they're going to be, using solar and redoing the solar. They're going to be donating some of their profits to the community. And, so those are the things you're going to see as responsible partners in the community: ease, customer, effortless experience. And then we're also responsible for the world we live in, and we're going to do our part. So I see it all now. I mean, my radar's up because it's my business, so I pay attention to these things. But it used to be Target or the likes would just introduce a product and sell you a product, and it didn't matter really how they did it. They did it one way. You drive to the store, you park your car, you walk into the store, you get it, and you leave. Well, that's not true anymore. And they're at the front. I reference them a lot because I'm very fond of them, and I think their leadership team is innovative, and they've been able to withstand a lot of pressure where a lot of others are dropping, and they just can't keep up. So that's why I reference them a lot. And they're a household name. People know them, and many people love them. So.
No, I think they're a good reference point for all that. I mean, they clearly are a leader, and like I said, people know who they are. So talk quite a bit about trends you're seeing in real estate. Can you speak a little bit to the opportunities for whether it be investors or retailers? If there's anything that you could speak
No,
to.
I wouldn't say that there's any secrets. You own a good piece of real estate, it's a good piece of real estate. Generally, that transcends year after year after year. Now, there are some things that change. Sometimes communities change, they turn over. The main sometimes shifts a little bit. But generally speaking, good intersections, well-placed real estate for certain needs, especially if those needs are wide, meaning I want to be in a convenient, high-traffic location. They tend to get better and better and better. So there's no real mystery when it comes to where are the real opportunities, other than taking underutilized users in those locations and recycling them. Seeing something different in those locations could be really good opportunities. Store closures in great locations could become partly entertainment, they could be partly experience, and part just pure retail, where once they were only just retail and they were occupied for a very long time. I think of a lot of the Sears locations around the country. Spectacular pieces of real estate, but they're a department store. Underutilizing that A location with a yesterday format. Does that make sense?
No, totally. I think
So,
just that from another kind of mindset, just the value add in that you like you said, seeing the opportunity in that to use it in a different way is really the opportunity there. And
so I would say still the opportunities lie more in urban areas than they do in suburban areas. Some would disagree with me on that. I think urban areas for retail have been less picked over because there's high barriers to entry than the suburbs. It's easy to go to the next intersection on a flat piece of ground and propose a shopping center. It's really hard to go to the next block in a major city, top 5 cities in the country, and just propose another retail center. There's already buildings there. There's historic districts, there's condominiums, there's high rises, there's government buildings. But if you can crack the code and figure it out, a lot of these urban areas are underserved for retail compared to some of their suburban counterparts. Now, there's exceptions in suburbs. They're usually the more established, denser suburbs, but they tend to lean more urban in their real estate development mindset than the sprawl that we've seen in suburbia. And so I think still urban areas are so untapped for good, high quality, well priced, excellent omnichannel type retailers. I think the best opportunities going forward for retail are freestanding users, meaning they know the requirement, they direct you to a site, it works for them, you develop the site, it meets their needs 100%, everybody's happy. I don't think building shopping centers in the suburbs where it's one site in one location that has to work for 25 stores. And all those requirements are somewhat different and changing. I don't think that's a great opportunity. But I do think retail, new construction, the best opportunities are in mixed use, where people can live there, they can work there, they can play there, and they can consume there, they can shop there. Those are the two opportunities I see that are safest for retail, mixed use projects or established urban. That's what we're seeing a lot of our retailers want. That's what their requirements are. And that's where we're generating a lot of our new revenue going forward in the years to come.
Gotcha. No, it is interesting, kind of the migration. You've talked about suburban sprawl, and I know, I grew up back in Kansas City in the suburbia in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and now I remember the mall I bought every pair of jeans and tennis shoes at. They knocked it down. I mean, it's like just incredible, and I was like, wow. But I guess somebody thought, and actually, I think what they're putting up there is like a Lowe's or some sort of a, like you mentioned, like a single box, kind of store. But it's still just kind of crazy to think that. But anyway, hey, wanted to shift gears here for a second, if we could. And you had mentioned, or there was something I written down here about risk as well. But I wanted to touch base here. As I mentioned to you before we started recording, by day I'm an insurance broker, and we work with clients on a daily basis on trying to manage risk. And there's a couple of different strategies we typically try and introduce for consideration. And the first is, can we avoid the risk? If we can't avoid the risk, we look to see if there's a way to minimize the risk. And if it can't be avoided or minimized, then we look to transfer the risk. And that's essentially what an insurance policy is. And so I like to ask my guests if they can take a look at their profession, their clients, their environment, and if they can identify what they consider to be the biggest risk. And just to reiterate, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance-related answer, but if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Tom Londres, what is the biggest risk?
Well, I'd have to take a position to establish a vantage point on answering that. Am I a retailer looking into the future saying, where's my biggest risk? Am I an investor or an owner of a piece of retail real estate looking to position it to minimize my risk or assess where am I most exposed going forward? So I'll take the latter. I'll give you what I think is the biggest risk, or one of the big risks, if you owned retail real estate. I'm not going to get into the mind of a retailer and where they think they should be, other than I think they should be always in the online world and the bricks and mortar world. That is universally agreed if you're a retailer and want to move forward, with some exceptions. But if you want to, generally speaking, if you want to be a vibrant, relevant retailer moving forward, you have to have an online and a bricks and mortar presence that's effortless, that has a great customer experience. And we can see that with both of those retailers that are disciplined in each one of those corners, trying to get into the other space. But I would say if you own retail real estate and you have an exposure High exposure to department stores and apparel retailers. I would say if your portfolio contains a large portion, the percentage of your occupancy is coming from department stores or apparel retailers, I would say you need to rethink. When those options come up, if you have the opportunities to downsize, to mitigate your risks, you have to inject entertainment, you have to inject food, you have to inject convenience, services, um, 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 fitness, theater, and again, moving towards diversifying your center, not away from retail, not to diversify it and add um, apartments, although some assets would lean towards that just in scale and size. You need to mitigate and say, I'll take one wing of retail and make them apartments or luxury condos or townhouses. Maybe I'll add a hotel or something. But generally speaking, if you look at your portfolio, if you're owner of a retail real estate and you're leaning more towards a department store and or apparel, I'd say probably rethink it. Because I think apparel is shrinking in its category, in its demand, in its consumption. And I think department stores, most of them, if not all of them, will be radically different or completely eliminated within a decade.
Wow. No, it's amazing just the constant transformation of that. That's and it's hard to argue otherwise, based on what what I've seen here in recent time with the all the apps and stuff we've talked about, and just like we've been talking about the trends. So
And again, you're not going to find this on the edges. You're not going to find it the best regional mall or the best department store in Santa Monica or in Miami or in downtown Boston. Those are the exceptions. I'm talking in general across an asset class. If you have a large exposure or your whole portfolio to department stores and apparel, which they usually go hand in hand, you probably should rethink it. The largest mall that opened this past year, it's opening in phases, does not have a big anchor, does not have a huge amount of traditional retail, and it's the largest mall that opened in the country. It's outside of New York City. It's called the American Dream. Some wouldn't call it a mall. I call it a mall. It's not the largest mall in the country, but it does have an amusement park inside of it. It does have many entertainment venues inside of it. One of the entertainment venues is an indoor ski slope. It's a mall. It's a retail mall. They make their own snow. You take the gondola or you take the chairlift up and you ski down. And then you go to dinner and then you go buy a pair of shoes.
that's awesome.
So, but it's not your traditional regional mall. It's not your traditional power center. It's not your traditional strip center. It has components that are similar, but it's built for the next couple decades, not the past couple decades. So I would say the two most vulnerable are department stores and apparel. And there's other vulnerability, but what I'm seeing is innovative owners that own and have a big exposure to that are rethinking and chopping up those spaces, reimagining those spaces, and adding office, adding open space, adding parks, adding various types of retail in various categories to spread their risk, adding entertainment, really getting a single purpose retail facility to be a mixed use functioning for a lot of different people, a lot of different hours during the day, and a lot of different days during the week. So there's integration and sustainability going forward. And when they do these renovations, they do them in an environmentally responsible way. And those are the assets that are going to be risk-free or lower risk. The ones that get stuck are going to go the way of Sports Authority and Circuit City, Kmart, You know the names that got
Yeah.
stuck. They got stuck.
No, that's good insight there, and kind of don't get stuck, kind of thing. That's good. Hey, Tom, before we wrap up, where can the listeners go if they'd like to connect or learn more?
Go to our website. It's real clear. It's real easy. If you need help in retail expansion with your retail concept from coast to coast, if you need help with filling retail vacancies with your retail assets, selling them or filling them or repositioning them, you can go to www.metrocommercial.com.
Got it. Tom, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time to talk. I've enjoyed it and learned a lot, and hope we can do it again soon.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.